Mr. Minister, welcome. Please sit down. So we have scheduled what you all know who follow the energy press conferences, this live interview every time with the Minister of Energy, who would believe, and I'm sure will be, revealing and very fruitful. Good morning. Revealing, I'm not sure, but productive, I do hope so. Yes, we're going to do our best. We as journalists, we want to hear some news because people from the market for renewables and storage, I think to some point, they expect some decisions and some answers. Let's start now with what you're going to announce later today in relation to the energy market in terms of retail. The special measures are over, so which is going to be the new normality? So the special measures are normally linked to special circumstances. Since there are not going to be any special circumstances, then we're not going to have any special measures, which are going to be over by the beginning of 2024. The Middle East crisis doesn't seem up to now be affecting, despite the fact that energy futures seem to show some degree of risk. To the extent that there is no risk, there's not going to be any extension, and I think we're going to be a de-escalation rather than an increase of prices, because as you know, the gas is now 99% in terms of storage and in terms of capacity. We also have vessels which are now waiting for better terms before they can sell the gas. And the winter, until now, we're looking at kind of mid-term forecasts, seems to be warm. So it needs to be above average, plus the new climate, the climate change, makes it more possible to have warmer winters with some extreme conditions rather than colder winters. This, as far as the kind of sort of special circumstances. Now, what's going to be the new normalcy in retail? There's going to be complete freedom of transfer, but there's also going to be one pricing, which is going to be a fallback position for anyone who's not going to change their pricing, and it's going to be a single pricing for all suppliers. It's going to be exactly the same. It's going to be identical. It's not going to have different elements that's going to make it not possible to compare different suppliers. So this pricing needs to be for the purpose of transparency and the smooth operation of the market, because the energy market by nature concerns prices. Electricity, the issues with electricity doesn't really have any issues of quality. Okay, there's a 10% of quality issues, but 90% has to do with prices. So a commodity that concerns 90% in terms of price, then it has to be comparable on that level, on the level of pricing. And because there is an underlying criticism that this is a sort of state intervention, then if somebody doesn't choose pricing in the next then they're not going to have the support of the consumer. So if they don't have a clear support by the consumer, then how can people choose what supply they're going to go, and is that going to be chosen by the consumer on the basis of their own interest or the interest of the supplier? This is why we have to cannot talk on behalf of the consumer, and that's why the state, the government that represents the consumer in this case, we say that if the consumer does not choose to go to a particular tariff, then there is a fallback tariff that you can use so that you can know who's the cheaper, and you can also know what the price is, because another option would be to go to a tariff that would be marginally cheaper. It will be based on the adaptation clause, and then we could be asking now that can we go to the adjustment clause? But of course, most likely the answer would be no. So, Minister, because you just mentioned that there was another thought, and of course this is still the case, depending on how the market develops and the prices in the market, then do you think that you might have second thoughts later on and come back to the tariff with the adjustment clause? No, the consumer can go back to that whenever they like. Another option would be, of course, a single tariff with an adjustment clause. But let's just try. Let's just have the consumer try this new proposal. Let's just see if the marketing departments will work, and I'm sure they will work really hard for the next 9 months. I'm talking about the marketing departments of the suppliers, and let's just see the competition, how it works in terms of pricing, because this is the kind of competition the consumers are interested in, and then we'll see. However, as a comment, it's not a question, you must see that there is an issue with the competition in the sector. It's almost like saying that we don't see a good, how the competition working. My problem is that I'm an economist. So the economic model based on which we design markets has some assumptions, and these assumptions are very useful. One of them is the good information. The other one is a zero cost of transaction. A third one is rationalization. Good information, it means that you are aware of current and future prices. The zero transaction cost means that I can change automatically. I can switch supplier very easily, and rationalization means that every time each decision is rationalized. This is what we call heroic assumptions in economics, because we know that these are not always adhered to, but we know that to create a system of sort of state control would be a lot worse. And this is why we intervene, so that we can, this is the kind of liberal kind of policy, and we don't allow the markets to, we support for the operation, for the functioning of the markets, which means that if we look at the 3 assumptions that I've just mentioned. So the first one about the information, here we have a complete lack of information in today's market. Because if I ask anyone in this room who's the cheapest supplier in 2023, I don't believe that there'll be anyone who can answer, and we're all energy specialists here. So who can answer that question? The only one who can answer that is just somebody who has connections in the kind of marketing department. I don't believe that there'll be anyone else who would have the answer to that. The second assumption, which is about the zero cost of switching. At the moment, it's not zero cost. There's a significant cost, and it has to do with bureaucracy, time, and this is why millions of consumers do not bother switching, and that's why they sort of stay with the current tariff. The single tariff is going to be a mass tariff, and third, the third assumption, the rationalization that I talked about, this is not one of our strengths, especially when the price difference is very small, like it is in the case of electricity tariffs. And that's why interventions are needed, so the competition works better. The question that's going to be answered in practice is that this single tariff is going to be, whether it's going to be cheaper than the rest of them. That's the whole point, isn't it? The answer is that this tariff is going to have one weakness. I want to be honest. The weakness is that it counterbalances a future risk. Because it's going to have the next month's tariff, because it has a correction mechanism, and that makes it slightly better. But if you would ask me if it's going to be systematically better than a review clause tariff, no, it's not going to be. But at the same time, it's going to have something positive, because you're going to be able to see the prices, and therefore there's going to be a lot of pressure for competition. If it proves to be lower, cheaper, it means that competition was not working. So I'm hoping that it's not going to prove cheaper. I'm hoping that competition has been working. But this is something I wouldn't bet on, and we're going to see that. But in any case, having seen the competition in prices, I think it will be easier for consumers later on to go for the review clause if they choose to do so. But if we don't know if there's going to be an increase or a decrease in prices, then this is a little bit more complex. Can we just talk a little bit about the natural gas from Bulgaria before we move to renewables? Just very quickly, are you concerned about the whole discussion that we hear about the Bulgarian tax on gas that's going to cause supply issues and pricing issues? This is a very tricky issue, the whole issue of Russian gas. And this is difficult because Russia has proved unreliable supplier of natural gas, because they used it in political terms in the last couple of years, and we have a European policy for the reduction of the use of Russian natural gas. We have an actual reduction from 40 to 9% in Europe. In Greece, that's not the case, because we have a series of contracts for natural gas from Russia, and so therefore the share is a lot higher. The price in terms of the long-term contract that we have are not satisfactory. Talking about the gas operator, and there is a clause in that contract which says that it's not going to be affected by any Bulgarian taxes. There are ongoing negotiations at the moment, and so we'll just stay there. And now we're going to move on to another hot topic, which I believe that you have in your hands. As to how it's going to be a new framework for renewables that is going to lift some of the issues that we have at the moment. It's going to create some stability. And here, where all the people who are here today with us and those who are following online, and there are experts either from companies or they know that we're in a very critical point. Have you made any decisions in terms of the grid capacity? I'm just going to give you the general direction that we have. At the moment, the electricity sector has led to a point where we don't actually have enough electrical space. This problem can be solved in 3-4 different ways, and we're going to look for a different mix that can lead to a possible solution. One possible solution would be to create some kind of demand response system, which will be useful, but this is more of a kind of mid-term solution because it requires a few months to make it work. This is something that energy-heavy industries are also needed, and it's also included in the new regulation. So this is only for heavy consumers. Well, when we have smart meters, then yes, we do have it. We have it not only in some businesses, not only in big industries. The way the system works at the moment, we need to kind of work on 10 different fronts. So there's no magic bullet. Another thing that might help is the increase of storage, especially when we're talking about PVs with batteries. That's before the meter or after the meter, which are more useful and have a greater productivity. So before you move to the third one, because it's the most important, and I heard you yesterday saying that we need to prioritize the battery-related projects. No, I didn't say that. I said that we need to include we need to include batteries if we are to create electrical space. I'm not going to go any further. But let me ask the question, do you think that the ministerial decision might change? No, the ministerial decision we're not intending to change it. What we may do is to prioritize, unrelated to the ministerial decision, the issue of those who use batteries. This is something that we're going to look at. I'm not going to go into further details. Therefore, your intention is that the new projects that include batteries no, that's not what I said. I repeat, I'm not saying that projects that include batteries. I'm talking about, it's slightly different what I'm saying, but I'm not going to go into further details because this is going to be announced in due course. No, there are decisions that have been made, but there are some very technical aspects on this matter, and that's why before we solve all the technical problems, we're not going to present what we're going to do. But I can tell you that what we're going to do is going to allow a much faster introduction of projects. So we're going to have projects that are going to be introduced to the system much faster. It's going to create additional electric space, and therefore, so we're going to achieve 3 different things. We're going to put pressure, so the electrification can be a lot faster. That's one. And only those who are ready for electrical supply for electrification will be available to this, and we're going to make and also we're going to make the system a lot more stable. Are you going to offer additional support, or otherwise the cost is going to go up for those who are not going to use batteries? We see a kind of a long My question as an economist is always, I wonder why that is. No, you didn't answer my question, but never mind. Are you going to ensure that, based on the new framework that's going to be created, that those who are going to be part of the system and operate, they're not going to have any cuts that are going to undermine the sustainability of their businesses? There are two different ways of solving the problems. One of them is the increased cuts, and the other one is storage. I'm not saying that I'm not excluding the possibility of using the second one, but anyone who's going to invest is going to know that. So anyone, if there are any curtailments, then of course that's going to be known to the investors. But what we need to remember is that investments in Greek energy are Norwegian bonds. So there's no investment without a certain degree of risk on behalf of the investor. So you cannot have an investment where the state takes the risk, the funding is done by the banks, and then you just enjoy the profits. Then this is Let me just add another factor to this. The industry, through PPAs, was hoping, and still hoping, since there are some ongoing contracts, to have relatively cheap electricity. Is that something that we're going to see? Yes, no, this is our goal too. We do need to have, to the extent that this is possible, an effort to be competitive in the energy sector, but we need to know that so if the tax is paid by the energy-heavy industry, then that makes the rest of the industry less competitive. But because this energy-intensive industry is affected, then we need to have an intervention there with various instruments. This is part of a working group that we have created on this matter. But this doesn't mean that we suddenly the Greek industry is going to be competitive compared to the US. So we're not going to see anything. We need to be realistic and aim for what is feasible and what makes sense for the kind of Greek reality. Now that we're sort of moving to the essence of the green transition, because we're only 7 years from 2030. Another issue that comes up is who's going to pay for the increased cost of this transition. Why are you talking about the increased cost? Well, I'm talking about the reduced cost. Why are you talking about the reduced cost? The cost of the green transition was Ptolemaida 5. The write-off of the cost of the write-off of Ptolemaida 5, that was a huge cost, and that was the only cost. The rest of it just concerns the kind of incorrect investments. This is what we need to avoid. Now, I mentioned it because in the past it was the consumer who would pay the price. No, I repeat, a part of the this incorrect investments, it was when pilot investments were made at a higher volume rather than what the actual pilot required, and now you pay a lot more for pilot investments, while the pilot should be actually a pilot. Therefore, the uptake of RES, which has a higher cost, does not necessarily mean a new special emissions reduction tax for gas emissions. Of course, when there's an investment, there's a 70 or 80, 75, 80%, because then this is going to go down. So if we see that as an investment, then investment is not, but it's a higher cost investment, isn't it? Well, it's slightly higher if it's not a kind of purely PV investment. Yeah, the storage adds to the cost. Yeah, but if starting point is saying that renewables with storage or other means with today's prices, then in the future when storage, because the storage is going to go down, and especially after the 2030s, and I'm saying that because it's interesting, when we see the batteries from second-hand cars, because we're talking about, at the moment we're looking at storage from first-hand batteries which have been made specifically to support a particular type of e-mobility. At the end of the life of car batteries, these batteries cannot support cars, but they can actually still have 80% of their capacity, and they can have another 10 years or 20 years of life. And there are some companies who do that, and there are going to be more in the future. And these batteries can become part of a domestic system or a renewable system, and they can be serviced at a much lower price. Therefore, the battery market in the future, with the help of innovation first, and now we see investments, and we see similar battery investments in batteries with organic molecule batteries. Therefore, when we have these new technologies and also the use of second-hand batteries, there's going to be a decrease in battery prices. This is where we are called to choose our course to the future. We're not going to be excessive in our investments in batteries too early. However, we're going to make sufficient investments to create electric space, because we pay increased prices at this stage, and also give investors an opportunity who can say that, yes, I can have certain curtailments for 5 years and then use my batteries in year 6 because I believe that I can find it at a better price, or and have a greater kind of variety of different investments. If there's something that we've learned from the case of Ptolemaida, is that big decisions in energy can carry high risks, especially in the time of great technological and geopolitical changes. Therefore, we need as a country to create a rich energy portfolio and not put all our money into one technology or one solution. Let's not look for a magic bullet and go with a more conservative and rich portfolio and be effective within the time given for this investment, not waste money on decisions that seem to be politically good at a given time, and when the landscape is a little bit clearer in terms of what's happening in terms of the geopolitical situation, etc. And not everybody's going to be happy, as you said a couple of days ago. Yes, this is who are these these renewable investors are going to be happy. No, nobody can. A ministry that has to deal with so many different interests cannot keep everybody happy. I'm talking about we need to keep a balance between, in terms of the efficiency. Not everybody's going to be happy because not everybody makes the same assumptions for the future. Some people believe that their investment is a great investment, which might be a complete failure. Yes, this is part of the game, of course. Yes, but if somebody who believes that has a great investment is very happy and their investment proves to be a failure, then there are going to be many more who are going to fall into that trap because that investment is going to be subsidized. And another thing that we need to remember is that the kind of weakest link in this is the consumer, and the role of the Ministry for Energy is to protect the interests of the weaker ones, because if the Ministry doesn't protect their interests, then there's nobody else who will protect the interest of the consumer. Let's close with something related to what you're saying. In this new reality that you're talking about in terms of renewables, is there any room for small investments who might not have been the most competitive but had their place in that reality, which with a domestic added value? The added value relates much more to the type of investment than not the type of investor. For example, a small hydroelectric plant has a better added value on domestic level. But so these plants have been through a lot in the last 10-15 years. Of course, there is room for small investors, and we will make sure that there is room for small investors, not only for the added value, but also for the added opportunity for competition. But however, for these investors to offer that competition is required actual competition, and not just anyone just coming in once they're given the opportunity. Minister, thank you very much. If there is a message that you'd like to send when it comes to renewables. No, I think the most important thing is that we all need to remember that the ministry is here for the whole market, but keeping always in mind the interest of the consumer. Thank you very much, Minister. Thank you.